Hey guys, this is Avilo bringing you metagame update number 14, and this metagame update is going to be talking about the last patch, balance patch that Blizzard did for Heart of the Swarm. They actually patched the game, and what did they do? Well, what was the biggest complaint of Terran players last patch? Hellbat drops in Terran versus Terran. They were breaking the game, like every game was just, whoever killed more workers with Hellbats. The last couple metagame updates, I was talking about this. And what I was afraid of, and what a lot of other Terrans were afraid of, even if you look on Team Liquid, Strellick was posting that, if they nerf the Hellbat, it's a nerf to Terran, like, the entire race. And so what did they do? Well, they nerfed the Hellbat in every matchup. Instead of just only nerfing it in Terran versus Terran where it was an issue, they nerfed it in every single matchup, which is really bad. Here's the thing. Hellbat drops was mainly a problem in TvT because of the way Terran's defense works, and the fact that the only anti-air Terran really has at that point in the game is stationary, a missile turret that can't shoot when the Hellbats are unloaded, and a Viking that didn't really do the job to catch a medevac. So they nerfed the Hellbat. They made it do less damage overall until you research the Blue Flame. The Blue Flame basically turns the Hellbat into the pre-patch Hellbat. So you get the actual Hellbat later on in the game. And the problem is, it wasn't actually a problem in Terran vs. Zerg and Terran vs. Protoss. It was not a problem here. Zergs and Protosses may have complained about it, but it wasn't a problem. It was only a problem in the mirror matchup. Now, this would be like, you guys remember the Muta patch, right? Where Zerg players were complaining that in Zerg versus Zerg, the Mutalisk was too dominant. Every game was just mass Muta versus mass Muta. So what did Blizzard do to address that? Did they nerf the Muta across all three matchups by making it slower or removing the regeneration? Of course not. No, what they did was they nerfed the Muta specifically for ZVZ. They gave the Spore Crawler buff, which only affected ZVZ. So the question is, why did they not do the same thing for TvT? The Hellbat was a problem in TvT, specifically the dropship harass. You can't. It was, you both were dropping each other with Hellbats, killing each other's workers. So why did they nerf this? Because here's the thing, guys. Mech TvP is not viable. It's the least viable that it has ever been. Mech TvP is actually more viable in Wings of Liberty right now than it is in Heart of the Swarm, the expansion that was supposed to promote Mech Terran against Protoss. This last patch made it even worse. Mech TvP at this point is completely dead, to the point there was a point in time where I was meching against Protoss a lot. I refuse to mech now against Protoss because I don't like losing games that if I had gone bio I probably would have won, or the game wouldn't have been so one-sided. But yeah, mech. See, here's the thing. Blizzard needs to address, like, Terran players want mech to be viable. I don't know what it is. There's some easy things like making tanks do more damage against Protoss shields would make the siege tanks stronger against Protoss specifically. That would help mech TvP, something like that. I mean, they did that with the Widow Mine. They made the Widow Mine do more damage against Protoss shields. And so they can do the same thing with the siege tank. And the funny thing is, the siege tank used to actually do like a flat 60-65 damage, and then they nerfed the tank across all three matchups in the Wings of Liberty beta, and that's why mech TvP is actually not viable. Fun fact, mech TvP used to be viable. When the tank did that flat damage to everything, you could actually go full mech Terran against Protoss in Wings of Liberty, and then they, that nerf basically was the first, killer blow to the matchup. So the last, the Warp Prism buff, the Hellbat nerf, all this stuff, it destroys mech Terran versus Protoss. Like, it's not, you actually can't go it against any decent Protoss player anymore. And so the other thing that was changed in this last balance patch was the Banshee. The price was reduced to 100. That's nice, but now this leads me into the next topic of this metagame update: Terran versus Protoss. something is wrong right now. I remember speaking about this in Metagame Update number 11. TvP Balance, there's actually an issue right now in the early game. Protoss has about 20 different all-ins. They have, Proxy Robo, Proxy Stargate Oracles, Void Ray all-in, Blink Stalker all-in, DT, Proxy DT, Proxy 4-gate, in-base 4-gate, the in-base variation of all of those, fake all-in into normal macro, DT drop, 2-base DT drop. The list goes on. 4-gate warp. The list of Protoss all-ins and the early game shenanigans that they can do to outright win the game. It goes on forever almost, and Terran has Terran, you either have to over defend against the all-in they're doing, or you die, or you over defend it, and if the Protoss is really good and knows how to abuse that, then they fake that they're doing the all-in, and then they just macro and they're ahead of you now. So you're playing from a disadvantage the rest of the game. So while the matchup itself isn't imbalanced in either, once both players are in the game and they're actually fighting, the opening build order gambling and luck and choices available to both races is unequal, severely unequal. The choices both races have, and on top of this, a lot of these all-ins for Protoss can do a lot of these, or they can just do normal macro. And the biggest problem right now in the matchup is the Mothership Core. It's allowing Protoss to survive stuff that they shouldn't actually be surviving. They'll actually do an attack, and it might fail, and Terran tries to actually counterattack, and you can't. You can't do it anymore because of the Mothership Core. The Planetary Nexus comes into play like 6 minutes into the game. So you actually can't. So there's no way to kill Protoss in the early game. There's no way to kill them, but they have 30 different ways to kill you. Something is wrong here. Something is actually imbalanced here, and it doesn't have to do with the unit statistics or anything. Like, it's not like the Zealot's overpowered or the Stalker's overpowered. It has not, or the Void Ray. It has nothing to do with the statistics. It has to do with the opening build orders and the choices the players have. The choices right now are unequal. They're severely Protoss favored in the matchup. It's a severe Protoss advantage, and of course it snowballs, because if you're getting this advantage early on in the game, Terran is basically playing on the back foot for the rest of the game. And so what they need to do, something that they could do to address this, there is one thing I can think of that could actually address this, and I mentioned it in a previous metagame update. Remove the eBay requirement from a missile turret so that you can construct a turret without needing an engineering bay. So that way, let's say that you are playing against a Protoss and they're going for a proxy Stargate, and you scout it, but you didn't want to build you didn't want to have to commit 125 minerals and then 100 minerals for the turrets. So let's say that you scout the Oracles, boom, you can throw up a missile turret. You're not like instantly behind or dead. You have that extra 125 and plus the time investment of the engineering bay building. So if they did something like that, that might help the matchup a little bit. The opponent went Dark Templar, you didn't have an eBay in your build. You can throw up a turret. You're not instantly dead. Suddenly, there's a little bit of that Protoss can instantly win type of thing is gone, which is good, because right now Terran has none of that against Protoss. There's nothing that you can do as a Terran player that you can go attack and insta win, because boom, Mothership Core, Planetary Nexus, your attack no longer exists. The Nexus will take out a medevac. That's 100 Vespian gas from the Terran. So remove the eBay requirement from turrets can actually help out that matchup. And the only argument against this would be oh, Terran's going to turtle now. They're going to turtle laser. Well, no, not really, because the good players are not going to just build 500 missile turrets, before they know a threat. They're only going to build them if they scout a threat or think a threat's coming. You'll have the lower league players, of course. They'll be yay, and they'll build 20 turrets around their base at the 4-minute mark or something. But it'll actually help the game at the highest level of play be more balanced, because right now there's so many things that Terran just insta dies to. So that could be a tiny change that could help out. But besides that, there needs to be something done. I mean, that's like the only thing I could think of right now that they might want to, that they could do. Here's the thing: if Blizzard doesn't recognize it as a problem, Blizzard for some reason only looks at win rates. So if they see like the win rate is 50-50, the game's balanced. That's actually not true. Terran versus Protoss is severely Protoss favored in the early game right now because of the choices. The limited choices that there are for the Terran and the complete myriad of options the Protoss player has. So, TvP, it needs to be looked at. I mentioned this like a month ago or something in Metagame Update number 11. So that's that. And so the Banshee Buff, the Hellbat Nerf, the Banshee Buff, TvP issues. I guess the final thing is, like, how has the Banshee Buff impacted Terran so far that I've seen? Well, it's strange because they did this Banshee Buff after they nerfed the Hellbat, because they didn't want to just nerf Terran like they did in Wings of Liberty. They made that mistake. They just nerfed Terran, and then Terran players all disappeared. But so here's the thing that gets me about this. The Hellbat nerf was supposed to fix TvT only. They nerfed the Hellbat in every matchup for some reason. Doesn't make any sense. Does not make any sense at all. But then what they do is, they give this Banshee buff. They reduce the cost of the cloak. But what does that actually affect them? That actually affects TvT the most. Cloak Banshee now is like one of the strongest openers in TvT. So there was a TvT problem, and then they added something in the game that only affected TvT because Banshees suck. Once again, you can build Banshees against Protoss, but the Mothership Core shuts it down quite easily. So the Spore Crawlers and Queens in TvZ, like, nothing really changed. Like, yeah, the only nice thing is you can afford Cloak in a lot of builds where you wouldn't be able to afford it before. But other than that, it mostly affects Terran versus Terran. And the Hellbat is just, completely nerfed in the other matchup. So I don't know. It's a little interesting that they did that. Like I mentioned, they nerfed the Hellbat in every matchup, and then they buff a unit that only really is impactful in TvT. So, anyways, guys, that's the metagame update. I think I covered it all. The Hellbat nerf, the Banshee buff, Terran versus Protoss. It needs to be looked at. Like I said, remove the eBay requirement from turrets. Do something, because right now the matchup, it's really easy for a really good Terran player to lose to like a Protoss player that doesn't even build a second Nexus. They're not, they just play one base, or they do two base, and you can't even fucking touch them because of the Mothership Core. Something needs to be changed with the Mothership Core. I understand that they put it in the game to help Protoss versus Protoss, to help that matchup out so that PvP wasn't just like, 4-gate versus 4-gate or just all-in versus all-in. But right now the Mothership Core, it's too good against Terran. So yeah, TvP, they need to actually look at that. Right now the matchup is a mess. If you're a Terran player and you're Masters, Grandmasters, and you're having trouble in this matchup and you feel like a lot of games you're playing from way behind and the Protoss is just sort of like sitting there and you can't really hurt them, well, you're probably right. Because that's how the game is. Real talk, motherfuckers. So, thank you guys for watching. This has been Metagame Update number 14, and peace. I will see you later. Thanks for watching.